But I was wondering if you guys had any other recommendations from the fall 2017 anime season that you'd like to talk about on this podcast.
I do, this hasn't come out yet, but I do want to push it because, I'm biased. But, Children of the Whales will be airing this season. And, Viz is putting out the manga, and it's very interesting. The manga it's just fascinating to me. I have the pleasure of working on it, and I think the manga's coming out in November, maybe? But, yeah, because the manga's been really good, I have high hopes for the anime, so my fingers are crossed. So, yeah. Go check that out.
The art looks beautiful. I'm definitely very excited for it.
I think the anime got picked up by Netflix, though. So.
Oh, did it?
Oh,
no!
That is right. That's next year, then.
Yeah, because
okay.
I remember looking at it on my live chart and thinking, oh, this looks cool. Then I noticed it had Netflix.
Oh, right. So, the manga comes out. We'll have a bunch of volumes out by the time it's available on Netflix, so you'll all be super ready to watch it.
Yeah, I'll definitely
check out the manga. Any other recommendations you have, Annaliese?
No, I've only watched Black Clover, Kino, and then I watched Urahara, which I wasn't too jazzed on, so I can't give it a recommendation.
Yeah, Urahara is a bit of a weird one. I've never seen a show that's so visually interesting, yet also kind of completely dull.
For such a pretty looking, like, the pastel colors are really bright and like, oh, this is interesting. It's just such a drab feeling tale.
Oh no, this sounds like Rolling Girls all over again.
No, Rolling Girls was better, so this is worse.
No, I was very salty about Rolling Girls.
Yeah,
I have to point out, you two both just turned into ghosts. Like, just, very spooky. Yeah, the one thing I can say is, if you want to see a very interesting approach to drawing eyelashes, watch like 5 seconds of it, be like, oh my god, that's great, and then turn it off, and, that's great. The only times I was really paying rapt attention to it was on the close-ups, because I was just like, they've made some cool artistic decisions here.
Now, that's a shame.
Yeah.
But, Maxy, do you have any recommendations from the fall season?
I absolutely do. This has been kind of a wild week because, like, in the same period of time, or I guess couple of weeks, we've had a novel preview for Juni Tyson's Zodiac War run in Weekly Shonen Jump, the whole first chapter, I believe it was, and maybe some change. And we had the comic running for free on the Shonen Jump website and app. And then the actual show itself has come out. And if you want to have one of the most interesting experiences of your life, consume the 3 of these things one after the other, because they all take a completely different approach to certain details. Yeah, well, it's the exact same events with some minor differences. Like the comic version adds a journalist character to be the reader viewpoint, and the anime gives a lot more background detail on the first focal character, Ino Nishishi. The boar out of the Zodiac. But, like, by and large, it's the exact same events, handled the same sort of way, but with little flourishes that make them distinct from each other. Because, like, normally, if you've, say, just read the comic or something, you don't want to immediately go into the anime, because you'll just be going, oh, this is the same thing. But it's fascinating to see these little alterations in approach, especially, the anime, which is the studio's first actual proper project by themselves. Like, they've only really helped others and done video game stuff before this. They have an extended flashback sequence really establishing how screwed up the boar is, like the length she went to become the contender in the 12th tournament of the 12 that runs every 12 years. Because it's Nisio Isin, and he really likes repeating stuff as a way of being like, haha, clever wordplay. Which is also why she's called Ino Nishishi. It's just great. And so, like, it adds more flesh there, whereas if you're reading the comic, you get to see how absurd everything is, because there's this journalist who's just constantly like, what does all this mean? Are they saying they've got powers? What's happening here? I don't understand. Which is, I mean, let's be honest, that's pretty much everyone's approach to a Nisio Isin work. And then the book itself it's Nisio Isin completely unfiltered, so you get this slightly, like, obfuscated sort of like, we're not giving you all the information on the page approach, which is great, because you're getting more details filled in different ways across the other works. And, like, that's cool for people who aren't necessarily sold on adaptations. I know I'm not really massively into them a lot of the time. Juni Tyson's Zodiac War, it does good at it. And also has some of my favourite little things as well, like I mean, spoilers if you've not watched the first episode, which if I'm recommending it to you, why would you have? So skip ahead a few minutes otherwise. But the character Usagi, the rabbit in the Zodiac, who, first of all, is an incredibly, like, lanky, like, psychotic, wearing a mankini and bunny ears.
I'm sold.
He's so good. He's so good and so messed up. Like, one of my favourite touches, and it runs well across all of them, is when the characters all meet in this sort of meeting room for the tournament, he's actually already killed one of them, and he's just casually pointing at the ball with his massive blade that's got the Zodiac member's blood on it, and just going, I didn't do it. Like, not even like accusation, like as an accusation. He's just kind of just pointing casually like one would with their hand while like talking. Just being like, I didn't kill him. What you want about? And and
he takes offense that people are like looking at him like he did it.
Yeah,
like,
when he clearly did.
The blood on his like knife.
Yeah, it's so good. And his power set, he does necromancy, but it's not necromancy. It's he's necromanticist. Which is, he doesn't bring them back from the dead, he brings them back from the dead as friends. Because he's romanced them in murder, which is a beautifully stupid pun. And so messed up.
That's amazing!
And he really sells it because, like, the glee he has at, eliminating a second character, I won't say that one because that is a huge spoiler for the first episode, but like his glee he has in being like, I've got another new friend. It's so catching despite the fact he is the most terrifying psychotic in the entire first episode.
We talked about Jujutsu Kaisen, the first 2 chapters of the novel and the first chapter of the manga, before. You can listen to that discussion on YouTube. And yeah, we touched upon a lot of the same things you were talking about, Maxy, that it's really interesting to have like all these different versions of the same story come out at the same time. And it's really interesting to compare like the differences between each version. I wasn't like too enthusiastic about adding the reporter character because I feel like it took us out a little bit of the experience.
Yeah, I would say,
I liked how in the novel it's from Ino Nishichi's perspective at first.
Yeah, which
and I feel like
is strong.
It doesn't really add much to have like the reporter character like take away some of that narration she has.
No, he's definitely the weakest addition in the adaptations, but because it's also drawn by Akira Akatsuki, it's like you forgive that a bit.
Yeah, he has a decent design for sure.
Oh, I recommend it a lot. I'll throw in a second show just real quick as well as another recommendation. I'm really fond of this recent genre of women drinking alcohol anime. It's so bizarre. It appears like we had what was it, Wakazake, I think it was, before?
Yeah. Wakakozake.
Yeah, which again has a great drama as well that like actually gives you real locations you can drink it at. But this new show is called Love is Like a Cocktail. It's like a proper bean anime length, like 3 minutes. And it gets in, it gives you a scenario in which it's like, oh, I can't go out drinking, and then she gets home, her husband makes her a cocktail, she gets drunk, and it's cute. And you just go, yeah, that's great. Like, if I'm going to watch a short film, I want it to be completely innocuous and just have a nice drink. And it tells you how to make the cocktail. So if you're like me and you like a drink, then that's kind of useful.
Yeah, that sounds like a really cute, nice, relaxing show. I love food shows that are like all about the experience of taking pleasure from food and like just enjoying it, like kind of like silently just like taking it in, the atmosphere of like when the dish is presented and then just the experience of eating it.
Well,
like a show like, you know, Food Wars, like really over the top cooking shows that's like, you get like this big impact scenes about, oh my god, this dish is amazing, it's blowing my clothes off. But I really like these like quieter cooking shows as well, where they're like, I take a bite of this, there's no over the top reaction, but
just happiness. So yeah, just yeah.
This is why I love Restaurant from Another World from last season. That was such a amazing show to like watch when I come back from work at night, and then I make dinner, and then I just sit down and I just savor dinner while watching that show, and the characters are doing the exact same thing. So good.
Well said.
So good.
If you really like shows that are about the experience of savoring food, then let me recommend a drama for you for next year. Because I have never been more excited for something that is a year from coming out than the live-action drama for a show that's going to be called Adultery Restaurant.
What?
I've been buying the volumes of this because I read Grand Jump, the Jump magazine aimed at businessmen-age people. And one of its comics, it's a real big hit as far as this magazine goes, is Adultery Restaurant, a series about a man going off and having a meal at various restaurants. He gets to enjoy the food intensely. A married woman there will also enjoy the food intensely. You know, maybe they'll get a little bit on their face, maybe a little bit of a mess, be a little rude. And then they will both have an affair together. Every chapter. He will go off, have an affair with his wife and have a delicious meal. And this is the structure of every single chapter. And the thing is, that is the most morally reprehensible comic I can imagine. But it's also the perfect demographically aimed book I've ever seen. Cause like, it's written for businessmen, and someone, the creator of this comic has literally just gone, what do businessmen want? They want a nice meal that's bad for them, and they want to have an affair. And I'm like, that is a weird leap to make, but it's so good.
That just sounds amazing.
If Ashley Madison ever wanted to get into the publishing game, I guess this would be the manga to choose.
Oh my
It's
God.
just, I can't get over how good Grand Jump is, guys. It's the weirdest anthology in the world, just by nature of it being kind of like it trying to work out what grown men want to read, and its answer almost always being like something sweet, something morally bad, and maybe there's a titty. And that's like literally the entire process they go through for every series. Doesn't matter if it's like a really sweet thing, like the life of the Ashitaba family's husband, which is an amazing comic about a sweet pre-married couple, and then after they get married and pregnancy and stuff, and that's the cutest, most beautiful comic. But it definitely does feature all of the women in it having ridiculously large breasts and being seen in compromising positions that put the main character Muken into a state.
I've seen you post some of these pictures, and all I can think of is, oh, that poor girl. Her back must hurt so much.
All of their backs must just be
I hope you have good
destroyed.
support there.
But like, I have to admire, because they are aiming for this very specific demographic. They've just gone all out, like the author's just gone, you know what? Big as you like, they'll buy it. It's amazing.
Wow. I don't know if that's ever going to get subbed.
Well, again, if people want to see what any of these comics look like, just pick up the Bookwalker app. You can or go to eBook Japan. You can literally buy digital comics in Japanese for like £2 to £3 a pop now, like that, with no problems. We live in a golden age of me reading comics that are a little bit messed up, but in a good way.
Bookwalker is gonna make Maxy go bro.
Yeah. It really is. Sorry, I've completely derailed us. Sid, V-Lord, do you guys actually have any other anime to recommend?
Here's a show that I know you love a lot also, Maxie, that started last season, and it's Magical Circle Guru Guru.
Yes!
This show continues to be one of my favorite anime of this year, and it's just a delight to watch every week. It's just such a cute fantasy adventure show with adorable, lovable characters, great sense of humor. It's very fast-paced because they're adapting a 16-volume manga in 24 episodes.
Wow.
But it does not feel like you're losing any character development. Like, you still get a great sense for all the characters. You can still follow along the story. And, like, the moments that need to hit still hit. It's just really great comedy and really lovable characters. It's just such a cute, adorable little show.
I mean, I can say with some confidence, as someone who's started very clumsily reading the original volumes, that the fast pace actually kind of makes it easier to endear yourself to the characters, because they have to be, you know, they have to be established, given to you, thrown at you. There are gimmicks out there, there are jokes out there, and it's like bang, bang, bang. And like, you will know instantly if you love them or hate them. Whereas in the comic, it's a little bit of a slower burn, even though it is, you know, still a gag comedy with the two cutest children in all of anime. Oh my gosh.
Yes! How can you not love Cookery? Like, she's such a lovably innocent little girl. And then Nikkei is so adorable too, and like his bravado.
Well, I mean, to give people an idea when recommending this show, the best thing from the first core, is it said core? I've said it now, and all I can think of is the best daddy from Final Fantasy. This is difficult.
Oh, Core is the best.
Oh, he's so good. Anyway, not to distract myself with that. Like, one of the best things that happens is in an awkward scenario, Nikkei hides himself underneath Kukuri's dress, and for the rest of that story arc where they're trying to rescue her from a kidnapping by monsters, he can't remember what her face looks like, and every time he tries, he just pictures her butt. And It's the sort of joke that I feel like other things wouldn't do quite as well, but because it's so sincerely written as kids, like, it's just, it's funny. There's not an ounce of cynicism or filth to it. It's literally just this dumb kid can't picture anything except for a girl's butt.
It really is just innocent fun. I'm really sad that the show hasn't gotten a lot more attention, to the point, like, they stopped doing the ANN reviews, which are a real shame because, like, Amy McNulty's reviews were, like, just really positive and enthusiastic. But stuff that, like, really appeals to, like, younger audiences, I feel, I guess just doesn't, like, get as much attention from Western anime fans. I think you see that with a couple other shows.
Yeah, like, they don't have the same sense of quote-unquote hype that anime communities like to go on about.
Yeah.
It was Renee all over again.
Poor Renee.
Yeah.
I don't understand that comic at all, because I've been trying to read it in Shonen Sunday, and it turns out that when you haven't got, like, years of context to what's going on, it doesn't make sense.
Plus, haven't they been doing a lot more plot stuff in Renee lately?
If I could tell you, I'd say for sure.
There's the usual, like, 1 step forward,
50 steps
for a
back.
while.
There was some stuff with a girl and a praying mantis, and I don't fully understand what happened. And one of the cats has a human face, and I don't like that. It's really unpleasant to look at, and it scares me. So, like, clearly, I have to start from Volume 1 to make this all okay, but, man.
Yeah.
That's that.
Why Renee isn't, like, I guess popular compared to other Rumiko Takahashi is something that I really want to get to the heart to, because I definitely think it's, like, the weakest of her works, but I still think there's a lot to enjoy in it. So that's like a project I want to do sometime. Just like get to the heart of, okay, why isn't Renee good?
Renee especially is like very different from other Takahashi works. Like even in terms of just humor, like it's a very different type of like I feel comedy that it's doing. It's more like I guess subdued or dry humor, where like Ranma or like Masamu Koken or Sayatsu are like more over the top with their humor.
More gag a minute.
Yeah.
But that's definitely a conversation I need to have more in depth at a later date. But speaking of like shows that Amy McNulty reviews on ANN, Colton would be, remiss if I didn't mention that Gintama is back this season. And of course, it's as great as ever. They're adapting the arcs that they had not adapted before, all the smaller comedy arcs. And there's just a lot of fun stuff to expect from this season. And of course, after this will be like the last bit of like comedy arcs from Gintama. Because when they do the next season of the anime, that's going to be the final arc. Then it'll be all over.
I'll be caught up with the show in 320 episodes, so I look forward to finding out.
I'm still on episode 15.
Yeah, you guys need to get caught up. But speaking of comedies that are incredibly enjoyable, but you don't need to watch 300 episodes to get caught up on, Mr. Otsumatsu Season 2 is airing this season.
Oh,
yes, and Viz has picked it up and is streaming it as well on their site. And I'm looking forward to their dub as well.
Yeah, that dub is going to be interesting because, like, I know in Japan, like, there's like a big deal about like each one of the Matsus is played by like, a very popular seiyuu.
Yes.
So I wonder, like, are they going to do the same thing here? Like, get popular English VAs to voice each Matsu?
I don't know if they'd have that level of budget for voice actors over here. That would be something to see if they got just the most popular. But man, like the first episode of series 2 of Osamatsu-san, like really, really has me wondering if they're like daring the network to like remove their first episode again. Like
that episode, it was so ingenious. Like it was like a real big commentary on like the show's own success and how ridiculous it is that like so many people fell in love with these disgusting, terrible characters. Because like they're literally presented as these fat, disgusting, slobs who are like, profiting off of everyone's love for them, and they're just being lazy. And like you have like them like doing the laziest handshake events and just raking in the money. and then you have like this moment later where Totoko is like auctioning off this really cheap merchandise, and she says, "It doesn't matter whether that product is actually good or not. If it has the Matsu's name on it, it's gonna sell." So it's like this really pointed satire on the commercial success of the show, and like how passionate and lucrative it has become for like seemingly no for good reason, but like it's definitely like a strange thing in the minds of the show staff. Like they weren't expecting this, that like these versions of characters would be this appealing, to people.
But like,
it's
it's daring to do more direct parodies of stuff when nearly every single parody they've done has landed them in hot water. And there's kind of little touches as well. Like, our viewpoint characters for the first half are the actual two most popular characters from the original Asamasukan series. Like, to the extent where, to the point where the brothers got put to the side for them. So having them now observe the massive popularity of the Masuno brothers is kind of an amazing little reference that doesn't mean anything that much unless you really know the stuff about the original series that has nothing in common with the current series. It's so weird. I love it. It's clever.
It was a really smart touch. Like, this show is just one of the cleverest anime comedies that's, like, come out in recent years, and I'm so glad that it's back, because season 2 is looking to be just as strong as ever based on this premiere. Because it was laugh a minute. This is some of the most, like, pointed satire that I've seen in anime comedy. It does not get, like, this, like, overt about what it's parodying, or, like, you know, commenting on politics, or like just the fan culture, like as like cynically as the first episode of Ozumatsu-san does. So yeah, this show is really good. I love the anarchic spirit it has. Yeah, so this is a great season, you guys. I'm really excited for it. I think there's a lot to enjoy, and I think Black Clover is one of those shows I'm gonna really enjoy watching week to week.